Hello. This video is dedicated to the Barrett 2050 and the Barrett 2000 line. I'm not a Barrett bigot. I have coding equipment too. I have numerous Yaesu and Kenwood equipment. I do have a penchant for preferring commercial radios over amateur radios for a lot of reasons. We can go on that to another video, but we're going to go over the 2050 today, starting at the Barrett 2000 line. The Barrett 2000 line, this is can be made to be mobile or fixed, aka base. The 2050 is the primary model here. There's also a 2030 which has some reduced capabilities, and there's a 2060 which is designed for can be designed for phone interconnect and internet, as well as fax and things of that nature. The 2050 with additional boxes, they all have the same relative footprint and or style. This one has cooling because it's a transceiver. This is the power supply of 2022. It does not, if you notice this one doesn't have a vent, so it doesn't really generate a lot of heat unless you're continuously using it. If you're ALE or you're setting it up for internet interconnect or fax interconnect, or using it to do radio to phone or phone patch, or things of that nature. The power supply down here, which we'll go over in a little bit, it does have fan capability, but it still doesn't generate a lot of heat. It's designed to be fieldable by NGOs and militaries. It's used by several militaries in the Near East, as well as South America, Canada, you name it. The Barrett is being fielded. Up down on the mic, it's a fairly utilitarian mic. This is a commercial radio, so you're not VFOing. There's no big knob on it. You can do some up and down on it, frequency wise, but by and large, you can enter in through the front. But a lot of times, remember, these are used on established nets, so you use software to configure it, and then if need be, you can go out of your configuration and use the front end to type in your frequency and or modes. I prefer commercial rigs for certain situations. This can be made into a man pack, which is called a 2040, which reduces its power from 124 for a max of 125 watts down to, I believe it's 35. It is not an inexpensive device. For that purpose, I don't buy brand new. I have a contact in Australia who sells new as well as lightly used Barretts, and that's who I source from. In fact, this is a new one I just picked up. I have several of these. This one got to me in, I'm serious, 2 days, and I've been running it through tests and so forth. I mean, I have bought 3 radios from this, 3 Barretts from my contact, and I bought 5 Codins, which is a competitor in this line, which I will be doing a video on, a Codin 2110 V or Victor for voice only, and that's a total man pack, but that's for another video. The keyboard is quite easy to understand. The screen is quite easy to read. On the back, you have 2 antenna ports. It can be configured many ways. It can be used for transmit and receive diversity. And you have your serial port, which allows you to program it. It has a key, and it has a CW key as well as a external speaker. None of these are proprietary. I mean, physically they may look so, but all of the data is published, and I've made cables and conversions for all of these. And this is a GPS port, which is they partner with Garmin, like who doesn't, for the GPS, and that's what you would be using through this. If you buy it, I think a new one's like $400. They're fairly hard to source used, although I'm going to get one used. But what I did is I actually bought a Garmin used on eBay for $23, and then did the wiring myself because it's standard voltage. And there's a fan, and there's an ATU. I use a 2019 antenna, which is vehicle mounted, and as well as just a regular auto tuner off the shelf. The fan, as I said, you really don't need it unless you're continuously using it. and most places, unless you're rag chewing a lot, you're not going to really overheat the thing. Just allow it to convex, so keep it free. I designed a device that clips into the side rails and has a big old slow turning fan that doesn't make any noise and runs off the same voltage. If anybody's interested in that, I can give you the 3D printing diagram, and you can hot glue it or screw it in however you want to do it. Clear cooling vents, bottom is flat. This face comes right off and is connected by Cat5 Ethernet cables. They won't tell you that, but the pinouts are the same. What else about this? This is an SDR, software-defined radio. Everything you see is already loaded on the memory. And the thing about this is, the only options that aren't in there, I think, from the factory are 6, 7, and 8, which is frequency hopping, encryption, things of that nature, things that are not really usable by amateurs, at least in this country. And this one's a 1, 2, 3, and 4, which allows you to do ALE, select call, and serial ports. Allows you to use the serial port for programming and things of that nature. If you didn't enable 3, which is the RS-232, it allows you to program it through IR. So as long as your computer has an IR capability, you can talk to it that way. Not my preferred way. I write software for control, so I tend to want to have a physical connection for a lot of reasons. One, it's not going to be in the atmospherics for the most part, as long as you don't go over distance, and it's a more secure way of doing it. As I mentioned, there's the 2050, there's a 2040, which is man-pack capable. There's a 2030, which looks the same, but it's actually slightly, some of the capabilities have been disabled. And that's not so much for any particular reason, except for making it simpler for people in the field to use. If I had a choice between 2030 and 2050, it would be a 50 every time, and I would just train people better. It's not really a hard radio to run, especially if you're running established nets or communication frequencies. It's kind of really C-spot run. The mic can be upgraded to, now they have one that has full capability on it, but I don't want to spend $3,000 for a mic. This from the factory is about, without the power supply, is around $4,000 to $5,000. I got the whole thing for about $2,000, and that included shipping from Australia. As I said, this isn't new; it's slightly used. They have territories for sales, and so I can only buy from my vendor in Australia due to the fact that this is not a new radio. If you buy it new, you're going to pay full retail, and I don't know about you, but I'm cheap. And even at $2,000. In the hand community, would argue that it would be that's really expensive. Well, yes and no. One is, this thing's built like a tank. Another thing is, it requires you to study a little more. It doesn't have a VFO, so you're not going to be flipping a big wheel. But if you want something to run off a battery, run off solar cells, can be configured in multiple configurations without a lot of fuss, I would go with this. In fact, if I had my 7000 or my 48 sat, I would not take the sat in the field. I would take this with my 2090 antenna, and that would service me for the rest of my life in the field. No offense to those, I'm not bashing them. These are built for combat, and that's my attitude about when I'm being fielded. If I had to bug out and I had to have a radio, this would be it. This is competitor code in, which we'll have in other videos. They're hands down the best. They're not cheap, but if you shop wise, you can get them at a pretty good price, and they'll last you your life and your children's life. The only things that can ever go wrong with these, and it's not really wrong, it's not something that they designed deliberately, but these have LCDs, and LCDs over time will go dim, but it's a pack. You throw one out, you throw one in, it's not a big deal. And sometimes what happens with these, the keyboards basically don't go bad, but things rub off, and then after a while you have to carry a little thing around, but they're really cheap to get for maintenance. And this is one pad all around. Those are the two, but you basically have to have this continual operation for years, and humid and dry. It sits in my shack, or it goes out in the car. I slide it into my vehicle and attach the antenna. It has a pretty cush life. It's not gonna, and if you treat it that way like most hams do, it's not a big deal. But if you need to go to the field, it's gonna be okay. That's 2050. In later videos, I'll operate, show you how to do it. I have all the documentation for the whole line of Barretts. So if you guys need, and it's on official CDs, I look stuff up for you. So feel free to send me emails if you want the contacts of how to purchase this arrangement, or you can just buy the radio, or you can buy any combination therein. I can give you the contact I have, and I've been doing business with David for years, and he's a good guy, and he stands behind what he does, and if he has it, he'll get it for you. If he can't find it, he'll tell you up front. And we'll move on just briefly to the 2022. The 2022 is let's see if you can see that. 2022 is, as I said, it's the power supply. Yeah, it has basic on and off, and it has its mains. It's like a military's mains. The same relative footprint as the radio itself. This one is used. It has a few love marks on it, but out the back, it's fairly sophisticated. It has 3-prong. It's auto sensing, so 220 wherever you're at, or 110 or whatever. Internals will figure it out for you because it's smart. And then you have a battery in. So when you buy these, you can request a lead that lets you tap into a power supply, like what I have over here. Sorry, I'm gonna have to move the radio, move it around a little bit, but power supply like that, or just go on just get yourself a battery and club it in. And you can use that as a battery backup. So say you have a group of batteries going to solar cells, and you have regular old mains power, or you have ground, or you have shore power, and shore power goes away. Well, it automatically will switch over. As the capacitance in there, it'll carry over. So as long as it can get voltage from here within the parameters, it's cool. It also allows you to run 2 radios, or a radio and some other device, like a 2072 or something along those lines. Like if you're using this using the radio to establish an internet connection between 2 desperate places using radio waves. The magic of the radio spectrum. Anyway, so that's the 2050. But as I said, in the line, there's several of them. I owned the 2090 for a while, and I sold it. I have a 2040, but right now it's on loan for a field day thingy that's coming up. But I hope to have a 2090 in the not too distant future, and I'll bring that in. Architecturally, a 2090 is very similar, but physically it's much different because it's designed from the outset as a man pack. This radio here is fairly standard. You know these connectors. This is proprietary. These are all Molex. You can buy them. You know what that is. Sure, a standard old 25-pin serial. Not so with the 2090 or the 2091, which is, as I said, it's old air cavity thing. It's mounted. They have proprietary connectors for some of the stuff, and it's a man pack, so it tends to be feature specific to its use. I also own as I said before, I own a code in the same class, and I'm hoping to get the 2090 in so I can have the 2 side by side and do a video so I can show you the pros and cons. There are really no cons with this radio. It will last your life. It has good support. It's been around for a long time. We have local support, Rochester, New York. If it's so broken, which there's only 4 cards in here, so they should be able to source it for you. So it shouldn't have to go back to Australia. But basically, if you ship it, it's not very heavy. It doesn't have any internal batteries that are notable. So it's a fairly short order thing to go send from here back to Australia, from here to Rochester, and Rochester back to here. So support in country is pretty good. So that's the 2050 initial review. I don't do box openings because my radios by and large are used. So there's no fabulousness to it. I also tend to buy radios that don't really have a lot of unique physical features. I mean, architecturally or software, they're pretty good. It may be interesting, but taking them out of a box is taking them out of a box. Anyway, 73s, thank you very much for listening to me my diatribe, and as I said, I'll be featuring some more in the future. Thank you very much.